There is no name. In the small coastal town of Marivel, there existed a quaint little bookstore, a relic from another era. But what set it apart was not its antique charm or the vast collection of books it held, but a peculiar section titled "There is no name." Visitors to the bookstore would often be drawn to this mysterious section, their curiosity piqued. The section didn't contain books with blank covers or empty pages, nor did it have books with titles rubbed off with time. Instead, it held stories that were unfinished, tales without an ending. Mrs. Blanchette, the owner of the store, would often see customers frowning in confusion or deep in thought after going through this section. When asked about its origin, she'd settle into her old armchair, clear her throat, and begin her tale. Years ago, she'd start, a writer named Mr. Leland frequented this store. He was well known in literary circles and had a penchant for unique stories. One day, he came across an old notebook hidden behind some books. It contained tales, each intriguingly unfinished. Leland was fascinated and tried to find the author, but all his efforts were in vain. Seeing the potential in the unfinished tales, Mrs. Blanchette and Mr. Leland decided to display them in the store with the sign, "Help finish the story." Visitors began to scribble their own endings, and soon, the "There is no name" section became an interactive space for budding writers and readers. But the mystery of the original author remained. Rumors began to spread. Some said it was the work of a sailor who visited Marivel decades ago, while others believed it was left behind by a heartbroken lover seeking closure. As the years went by, the section grew in popularity. Stories from the "There is no name" section started getting published, and Marivel became a hub for writers and literature enthusiasts. The unfinished tales became a symbol of hope, inspiration, and community collaboration. On Mrs. Blanchette's 80th birthday, a package arrived at the store. Inside was a new set of unfinished tales and a note that read, "To Marivel, where every story finds its ending. Let's keep the tradition alive. No name, no signature." The legacy of "There is no name" lived on, a testament to the beauty of collective creativity and the mysteries that bind us all. Broken hearts. The city of Venice, with its winding canals and historic charm, had always been a place of romance. It was there that Isabella, a talented violinist, and Leo, a poet with a rising reputation, first met. Their eyes locked during a masquerade ball in one of the grand palazzas that lined the Grand Canal, and from that moment, their fates were entwined. Isabella was known for her mesmerizing performances in the city's most celebrated orchestras, while Leo's verses graced the pages of popular anthologies. Their love story became the talk of Venice. They would often be seen taking gondola rides at sunset or walking hand in hand in the piazzas, sharing whispers and stolen kisses. However, as their fame grew, so did the pressures on their relationship. Isabella was offered a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to join a renowned orchestra in Paris, while Leo was being courted by publishers in London. The allure of success and the challenges of long distance began to create cracks in their once solid bond. Leo, ever the poet, began pouring his heartache into his writings. His verses, though melancholic, became more profound and resonated with many. Isabella, on the other hand, let her emotions flow through her violin, producing some of the most heart-wrenching performances that Paris had ever seen. One evening, as she played in a packed concert hall, she spotted a familiar face in the audience. It was Leo, who had come to Paris in hopes of rekindling their love. Their eyes met, and memories of Venice flooded back. After her performance, they met backstage. Words were unnecessary. Both had realized that their passion for their art had inadvertently drawn them apart, but the love they shared was undying. They decided to collaborate Leo's poignant poems set to Isabella's soul-stirring melodies. Their combined works became a sensation across Europe, blending love, longing, and art in a way never seen before. While their hearts had once been broken by the pressures of success and distance, they were mended by the deep understanding that love, when true, always finds its way back. The city of Venice, with its timeless romance, had set the stage for a love story that, despite its trials, had found a way to thrive. Why I Cannot Swim. Every summer, the coastal town of Bellport was alive with activities. Tourists flocked in, the beaches were packed, and children's laughter echoed everywhere. But amidst all this, 17-year-old Lucy would sit at the edge of the water, gazing longingly at the sea, never venturing in. Lucy wasn't afraid of water, nor did she dislike the beach. In fact, she loved the salty air and the way the waves lapped at her feet. The sea called out to her, but she could never respond to its call. Lucy couldn't swim. It wasn't that she hadn't tried, she had, multiple times, but a paralyzing fear took over her every time she went deeper than her knees. When she was 5, Lucy had a drowning experience. On a family vacation, she had wandered off and found herself caught in a mini whirlpool. The traumatic incident left its mark, and she became terrified of deep waters. Over the years, her parents tried enrolling her in swim classes, thinking professional guidance might help her overcome her fears. But the trauma ran deep. Every time she tried, memories of that day would resurface, and she'd panic. Her inability to swim didn't bother her much until she entered high school. Bellport High's most awaited event was the annual swimming competition. Everyone participated, and those who didn't would be in the cheering crowd. Lucy, however, was neither a participant nor among the spectators. She'd skipped school on the day of the competition, unable to bear the weight of her classmates' curious glances and whispered comments. One day, her best friend, Tara, approached her with an idea. "Lucy," she began, "I've been reading about therapy sessions that use VR, virtual reality. They recreate traumatic experiences in a controlled environment, helping the person face and overcome their fears. Maybe we can try that for you." Lucy was hesitant but willing to give it a shot. She went through several sessions, where she revisited her traumatic experience and was guided through it in a safe and controlled manner. It was a slow process, and initially, Lucy couldn't see much difference. But gradually, she noticed her fear diminishing. It was as if confronting her past in a controlled environment robbed the memory of its power over her. By the end of summer, Lucy, accompanied by Tara, stood at the beach's edge. Taking a deep breath, she stepped in, going deeper and deeper until she was waist deep, and then she began to paddle, moving her arms and legs in sync. Tears streamed down her face, not of fear, but of triumph. Lucy was swimming. The chains of her past had loosened, and she was free. She might not have been ready for competitive swimming, but for Lucy, the victory was in conquering her fears and reclaiming her love for the sea. And so, every summer after, Lucy would be found not at the beach's edge but amidst the waves, swimming, laughing, and truly living. Legacy of Bruce Lee. The sun was setting on San Francisco's horizon, casting a golden hue on the city. At a local gymnasium, a group of young martial artists, both men and women, were engrossed in their training, trying to master their moves, echoing with each punch and kick. Each of them wore a yellow jumpsuit, reminiscent of the one Bruce Lee once wore. Jake, a passionate 20-year-old, was leading the class. Though born decades after Bruce Lee's time, Jake's admiration for the legend was profound. He'd watched all his movies, read his philosophies, and even trained under one of Bruce Lee's direct disciples. For Jake, Bruce Lee was not just a fighter, he was a philosopher, an artist, and a visionary. One day, while the class was practicing, an old man with a white beard, wearing a simple black tracksuit, entered the gym. He watched silently from the sidelines as Jake instructed his students. The intensity in the old man's eyes was hard to miss. After the session, the old man approached Jake. "You teach them well," he said in a deep voice, "but do they know the essence of Bruce Lee's teachings?" Jake was taken aback but responded, "I teach them his techniques and philosophies. We honor his legacy." The old man smiled, "Techniques are just tools. What's more important is the spirit. Bruce Lee once said, 'Be like water.' Do you understand what he meant?" Jake paused. He had heard the quote many times, but facing this mysterious old man, he felt a deeper meaning to those words. It means to adapt and flow in any situation, to be fluid and not rigid. The old man nodded, "More than that, it's about understanding and embracing change." Bruce Lee's greatness wasn't just in his ability to fight. It was in his understanding of life. He evolved, learned from every experience, and became a better version of himself. Jake listened intently, absorbing every word. Teach your students to be like water, not just in combat but in life. To adapt, to evolve, to flow. That's the true legacy of Bruce Lee. With that, the old man left, leaving Jake in deep thought. The next day, Jake began the class not with physical training, but with a session on Bruce Lee's philosophies, discussing the deeper meanings behind his teachings. Weeks turned into months, and the gym's reputation grew. People didn't come just to learn martial arts, they came to understand life through the lens of Bruce Lee's wisdom. As for the old man, he never returned, but his lessons lived on. Some say he was a former student of Bruce Lee, while others believe he was just a wandering sage. But for Jake and his students, He was a messenger who reminded them of the true essence of Bruce Lee's legacy. The gym became not just a place for martial arts training but a hub for holistic growth, embodying the spirit of Bruce Lee, ensuring that his legacy lived on, not just in combat but in every facet of life.